Well, I think with Helga's remarks, we have a very good start for the discussion tonight. And I would actually encourage people to reflect about this when still sending in their comments and questions, because Mrs. Zepp-LaRouche gave us quite a lot to go through. Now, I want to start because I do think it is important to recognize where we are strategically. And you have, Helga, addressed very clearly the war danger and also the magnitude when you discuss the kinds of weaponry that would be deployed in such a war. And I think it's important, therefore, to just be clear where we are. And so I want to start with two questions that have reached us on this question of war. One reflecting pretty much an axiom that we meet many, many times in organizing. This question is from Germany, and it says, don't you think that those who threaten this world war might not have some kind of refuge on or maybe even under the earth, a quasi-second Venice, and could that not be the reason for them to freely risk the danger of a world war, because they would be the ones who would outlive it? And then another question where the questioner says that no army on this planet could actually fulfill its real task when a nuclear war would break out, namely to protect their own population and infrastructure from destruction. So that in itself should be enough to call on all politicians to rethink their current approach. And if they can't, then they should be removed from offices of power. And this questioner then asks, is it not a possibility, because the proposal is also supported by Iran, to turn the Middle East or Southwest Asia into a nuclear war-free zone?
Well, concerning the first question, I think while I have no detailed knowledge about such questions, I know, however, from past discussions that some of the top oligarchs have bunkers. There are some houses in, I was told, Acapulco and Australia and other places where you have houses which have 1 story above ground and 9 stories below ground. And obviously, some people think that they can survive even a thermonuclear war. Now, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if these people would be very happy to live in a world blasted by nuclear radiation for a long time to come. I don't know. I mean, I don't rule it out. I unfortunately don't rule it out. There are many buildings which have bunker parts. Even in Paris, I know of such buildings. But I think, it is not something, I think we need to act before it comes to that. But I don't put it behind people, unfortunately not. Now, concerning the second question, I think you are quite right, that the purpose of the army in a sovereign nation state should be exactly that: protect the population, protect the infrastructure. But what we have seen increasingly with the emergence of this empire idea was actually laid out by Samuel Huntington in his infamous book, The Soldier and the State, where he describes over 800 pages, which I tortured myself once to read, how the army, which is supposed to be based on Carnot or the German Bundeswehr innere Führung concept, the tradition of the Prussian reformers, should be eliminated by mercenary armies modeled on the Roman Empire, the imperial army, where the purpose of the soldier is no longer to be connected to its own people, but to basically, be mercenary, Do not think about political things, just follow orders, increase the killing ratio, and that kind of soldier has been groomed, unfortunately, a lot since the Second World War through the development of video games, Counter-Strike, Doom, killing, basically without any human reflection. And unfortunately, if you look at the armies being deployed in Iraq, Afghanistan, and who knows, Libya, where else, a lot of this has been outsourced, privatized to private security firms, which are no longer accountable to parliaments. And I unfortunately see a tendency also in that direction in Germany with the abandoning of the draft army, which the Lügenbaron Dr. Gutenberg has donated us, not as the only one, but he made the final stone to this. Unfortunately, it's going in this direction. The training of the soldier to be an example, like the officer who has the Auftragstaktik capability, so that if his battalion or whatever gets somehow lost from the general army, he would know exactly what is the strategic plan of the generals because he is a thinking person. That has been completely eliminated. And it's a very bad development, and I think we should eventually reverse it, because these imperial armies, these so-called intervention forces for human rights purposes, that is part of the empire. Now, concerning the idea of turning the Middle East into a nuclear-free zone, absolutely, but I would take it a step further. I think we should get rid of nuclear weapons altogether. I think that the time to solve any conflict on this planet with weapons is outdated and can only lead to the consequences I was talking about earlier. I think we must move in a completely different direction, pick up on the proposal of, I think it was attributed to Rogozin, of a strategic defense of the Earth, where the countries work together to fight off galactic threats, like asteroids which could destroy the planet or other such things, and make nuclear weapons obsolete in the same way like Zepp-LaRouche already proposed it with the SDI in the period of the Reagan administration, using these weapon systems based on new physical principles to solve other problems, use them in the civilian economy, get a science driver going, eliminate poverty on the planet. I think we have to make the next step, because if we don't make the next step, we may not make it as a species. So I think the strategic defense of the Earth should be put on the agenda, and an abolition of nuclear weapons all over the planet.